storyteller of the evening is John. We asked John a question. Yeah, get to get it over with, John. Breathe. We asked him, do you prefer curves or straight lines? And he said, curves, because straight lines seem restrictive. Please welcome John.
So today I'd like to tell you about my summer of '93. I grew up in the Middle East, and there's one thing that every Indian family did in the Middle East. Every summer, they all flew back to India to replenish their chips and pickles. But this is something that my family didn't do. So at the end of June, all my friends would say, au revoir, I'll see you back in September. And I used to go back to my dad and say, are we going this year? He's like, no, not this year. And I got the same response over and over again, every year. So you can imagine my excitement when one year, 93 to be specific, my dad comes up to me and says, kiddo, you and me, we're going to India for 2 months. And I was over the moon. Right? This year, I had stories to bring back. So plans were made. I told my friends I'll meet them back there. And I don't remember too much of the flight there, but the drive, the noise when you land in India, where Abu Dhabi, the city where I grew up in, was very civilized. You had sparrows and the odd seagull and a stray cat here and there. India was an explosion of life. The 4 hours when you're driving back from the airport to home, I couldn't wait to get to my grandfather's place. You know, the entire time my face was on the window. There were cars that I've never seen. There were people in various kinds of attire, bullock carts, cows, the odd elephant, goat, dogs, things I just read in books or seen pictures, and they're just passing by. And every half an hour I used to turn and ask my dad, are we there yet? And he's like, soon, we'll be there. We finally got there, and the expectation was met. My grandfather's house, the trees outside, he had set up a swing for me. There were a flock of, chickens, and there was the odd goat there as well. And thus started my summer vacation. Every day I was raring to get started. Get up early in the morning. My grandfather had his favorite chair, sitting outside. My job was to make or run away the chicken who used to nest on that French sofa. Breakfast, my grandma used to make me omelets, and I used to mix it with hot sauce. Don't ask me why, because it's just there in the kitchen. Mornings, I used to chase dragonflies or dig something up in the garden. Dragonflies because my granddad said, catching a dragonfly is an art. Learn how to do it. Probably was, making me busy, but I kept myself busy. In the afternoon, the fish seller used to come with his weird but melodic horn, and you knew it was a fish seller. He used to come, sit and gossip with my grandmom. And the days went by like this. All through this time, my grandmom had just one complaint. Of all the livestock that they have at home, a stray cat had taken up residence on the roof and given birth to a few kittens. And me in my young mind, I thought I should be repaying the favor for all the omelets. So every time I used to see this cat or her kittens, I used to chase them off and try to get rid of them. One afternoon when I was playing in the backyard, I looked across. There's this wall that was slightly taller than me, and right across on the opposite field, there were 2 kittens, white, young. They were sleeping under a coconut tree among tall grass. And like all kittens do, belly up, hands across their head. And I don't know what came over me. What I did was I slowly bent down and picked up this very smooth rock. And I threw it across. Now, I've thrown rocks before, and like any athlete tells you, sometimes when it leaves your hand, you know it's good. And this was good. Went beautifully. and it landed right on that kitten's pink nose. And it just flopped over. I remember falling over. At that time, I was ecstatic. I'd done something for my grandmom. I ran back in. Amachi, Amachi. That's grandmom in Malayalam. I got one of the kittens. She was busy doing something in the kitchen. She's like, great, go tell your granddad. I told my dad. He's like, great, go tell someone else. Half an hour later, I was playing in the front yard, and the image of that kitten falling over just kept coming back. In all the Tom and Jerry cartoons that I've seen, Tom always got back up. But this kitten didn't. And at that age, I don't know what came over me. I don't know if it was grief, I don't know if it was confusion, or the fact that I might have taken a life. I went up to my grandparents, I went up to my dad, and I was like, can we go check up on that little kitten? They're adults, they had other problems. They said, no, let it be, it's just a stray cat. And I didn't want to lose face in front of them by crying. But after half an hour, the tears came. I was inconsolable. I needed to do the right thing. I didn't know what the right thing was. Should I take the kitten to the hospital? Should I give it a decent burial? I don't know. So I worked up my courage right before the evening, before it got dark. And I noticed that my grandfather's brother's house had a wall that was close to that particular tree. So without telling anyone, I jumped across the wall. I went up close to that wall. I picked up this big piece of brick that was lying there. I put it on the side, stood up because I couldn't see across. I was a small kid. I looked across and I saw this kitten just lying there in the grass, not moving. So very carefully, I took another small piece of rock, made very sure that it was smaller than the first one, and I threw it to the side. And I don't know who was most surprised, me or the kitten, because that thing shot up and ran off. My tears were gone, and I thanked all the gods that cats have got 9 lives. So the vacation ended, and every time nowadays, whenever I read a book about, let's say, like Louis L'Amour, when they talk about, young boys going out hunting, I keep thinking to that one question: what did your first hunt feel like? What did you lose? My vacation got over. I came back to Abu Dhabi with a love for hot sauce, which I still have, and a story that I'm grateful that I don't have. Thank you all.